Frost, who I spoke with at an ATO conference in Madeira in June this year. Hello, Kate. And Alistair spoke there. He just left Microsoft and to set up his own company, Wild Orange Media, and he did a presentation on the psychology of social media, which I found absolutely compelling, and I'm very pleased that he's agreed to come and talk to us here today for what I think you will also find a brilliant insight into the whys and wherefores of having to use social media and make it work for you all. So I'd like to present Alistair Frost. Thank you.
Thank you, and very good morning to you all. Hashtag STM2012. How does it feel to be a hashtag? We're all hashtags now. My name, as Steve has rightly pointed out, which is always a good start, is Alistair. You'll find me on that Twitter thing. I'm at Alistair F. Now watch the spelling if you do tweet, because there's an Alistair F, and he gets really annoyed, because whenever I'm on stage, he gets loads of stuff that Steve doesn't understand. So I'm Alistair F. I'd love to make some more friends. I'd love to have some more followers, so check me out, and let me know what you think as well, because it's the only way that I can improve what I do, and you should actually, if you're on Twitter, do that as a courtesy to every speaker. It really helps us to do a better job. So what of me? Well, I started off my marketing career 20 years ago, working for a company called Kimberly-Clark, and it was classical consumer goods marketing, brands like Kleenex and Huggies and Andrex. That's where I learned my trade. And then I joined a company called Microsoft, and I looked after a number of the different audience groups there, technology people, partners. I headed up the consumer marketing group. Over the last 2 years, probably the most interesting phase in my career to date, I was the head of digital marketing strategy for Microsoft, which meant I had to get Microsoft's marketeers to figure out what's going on with the world and to do better marketing for a society that to some extent we had created through the technology that we'd brought to the marketplace. But as Steve's mentioned, that all changed earlier this year. I've started my own business. I'm now working with lots of companies, large and small, helping them to understand some of the things we're going to talk about today, but helping them get the most out of our digital world, to stay in touch with consumers as they advance faster than ever before in our history. Because this is kind of how it used to be. When I set out in marketing, it was pretty simple actually. We had this very simple model, which was there's these moments of truth. So basically what you had to do is the man would come to you and he'd give me a bag of money and say, right, here's some marketing money. What you need to do is spend this money and turn it into more money. That's the game we're going to play here. And you basically, by placing advertisements or doing clever things, will generate more revenue for us than it costs us to do the marketing. And then there were two moments of truth. There's a moment of truth when the customer got to the shelf. Now, if you're a travel agency, that might be when they walk through the door or they pick up the phone to call your customers, your sales line, whatever it is. There's a moment of truth when the customer goes to the shelf to look at the product and examine it. And there's another moment of truth, the second moment of truth, which is the experience. Of course, in travel, that's all about the holiday, the tour, the flights. That's the experience. Now, it was kind of simple because as long as there was no great gap between what you'd said in your advertisement, your stimulus, and the product that people saw on the shelves and the product that people experienced when they used it, you kind of done your job, and it was really simple. Today, though, there's another moment of truth, and it's what Google has coined the zero moment of truth. And I know you'll all be able to relate to this, because when you see that advertisement, or when you see some form of stimulus, a brochure handed to you, anything, what's the first thing that we do? If we want to check it out, we don't have to go to the shelf anymore. What we can do is we can turn to a device. We can look on a laptop, on a tablet, on a mobile phone. We can interact with people, and we can decide whether we want to go any further. And this zero moment of truth is so important. And it is quite shocking that many businesses have not worked this out, because without a good zero moment of truth, the rest of it doesn't matter. So let's look at this in a travel context. So we put out maybe we got some money for radio adverts, maybe we put some ads in the paper, some brochures, some Google ads, a TV ad, who knows what. Push that out there and people think, oh, that's good. So what then happens? They immediately turn to their digital technology to make a choice. They can go to their iPhone, their tablet. They can look on Twitter. They can ask their friends. They can go on Groupon, see if there's any other deals. They can check out Facebook. They can read some bloggers' reviews about that place. They can go on Pinterest. And Pinterest, by the way, hugely important for consumers who are in a transaction mind frame. People who are looking to buy Use Pinterest. It is extraordinary, and travel is one of the most potent areas on Pinterest. So watch that one. I won't go into it in more detail, but you can talk to me after if you want to know more about that. So then they go to there. And then if that is all right, if everything stands up to scrutiny, then you get to the shelf. And then that's when they pick up the phone. They get your brochures. They walk into your travel agency, and they make a choice. They surf the web, whatever it is. But here's the thing. It goes round and round. Once they've got your brochure, they go back and check. They go back and check. If there's any dissonance, any break in the promise you set up and what they discover in their digital world, you are dead. Your product will not sell. Your service will go unbought. So that's the problem, the zero moment of truth. And of course in travel it's really, really important. What are the top sources for travel planning information? Hey, no surprise folks, it's the internet. Whether you're traveling for personal or business reasons, the internet is head and shoulders above everybody and everything else. At second level, you've got family and friends. But at a much lower level, if your marketing is still obsessed with these other things, TV, travel agents, books, newspapers, you are missing the sources that people want. But what's interesting, those top two, the internet, family and friends, where do they come together? Social media. Social media is the most potent source of information for travel planning, and that's why it's important to you guys. So what I want to talk to you today about are three things. Digital society, what is it, where's it going, and how can we understand it better? Social marketing, what does it take to do marketing in a social world, a world where consumers have a voice just as much as the businesses have a voice? And I want to talk about psychology, a little bit of neuroscience at the end to sort of show you how things are evolving. So let's start at the top, which my mum told me was always the right place to begin. Digital society. What of them? We are empowered, and this is a typical photo. You could see this happening in any shopping centre, any high street, any environment where a transaction may take place anywhere in the world. Here we have not only a mobile device, we've got mobile drinks now as well. This is a relatively new thing. Our drinks go with us where we want to, and we can check things out. We're right outside a travel agency, and we're checking out whether they're selling us something that's right or wrong for us. These consumers are empowered. They make choices wherever, whenever, and however they wish. You no longer control their access to information. Get used to that, because that is the future. These consumers are also brilliant at co-creating something. If a review of your hotel does not exist, they will create it. If a review of your airline or photos of the seats inside your plane do not exist, they will create it for you. So even if they can't find a holiday they want, they'll make it themselves. If they want to have guidance on which tours to take in a certain city in the world, they will create that video. They will make it. So they will co-create stuff. So this is your opportunity to save them the effort, is to build the social content that allows them to discover the information they need. What of authenticity? They are looking for the truth. They will sniff out people who are trying to sell them a bad product. They will find you out if your prices are not fair, if what you're saying is not true. They will sniff that out, and they will expose you as a fraud. And more than ever, we have to be absolutely honest in the way we do our marketing, because you will get found out, and the consequences of that are devastating. And the final trend I want to point out is that we're evolving incredibly quickly. We've taken millions of years to get to this point where we can stand up and hold a conversation and all of these things. But now we can reverse a motorised vehicle while drinking scalding hot coffee. And we're moving faster than ever before. And we're getting used to this technology, and we're just embracing it. And so we too in business have to have that mindset that we want to be on this train. We want to take advantage of technology. And particularly for the travel industry, I looked at some stats. This, by the way, is the default position for the human race. Any city in the world, you can see people doing this. We will laugh at that, by the way, because that's a moment in time. It won't be long before we got that technology built into our glasses, our contact lenses, our sleeves. Who knows? But this is what we have to do for now. It's kind of old-fashioned. But what do consumers do with smartphones? Now in the US, and this is from February 2012, so it's already out of date, hopelessly out of date. What are people doing with smartphones? It's extraordinary. 29% of people looking up addresses for hotels and directions. They're researching where to eat, 22%, 23% researching attractions nearby. Now these numbers are probably close to doubled in the space of a year, I would estimate. 57%, it's not on the slide, 57% of US business travelers are using a mobile device now to access travel information. Interestingly, that's kind of plateaued. About 60% of business travellers. It hasn't gone anywhere in the last year or so. But consumers, personal travellers, 38%, and it's growing rapidly. So we are very mobile, and we are using these devices. Don't think of this as a phone. Think of it as the gateway to any information and anybody, anything, anywhere in the world. What of video? Video is crucially important, and I'll touch on it. That's my attempt at a man holding a video. That's what videos used to look like, kids, in the olden days. People are watching videos in extraordinary amounts. If you do not provide video content, if you've not got your brand associated with good video content, you are missing out. 68% of people who are doing the travel transaction are watching videos from hotels, airlines, and tours and so on. They're looking for this stuff. They expect it. If it's not there, you're not going to get the business. And so you can see enormous amount of consumption of video. But there's also this extraordinary divide. I love this cartoon. I like to think of this lady as my mum. This is my mum. She would say, I have an even smaller wireless device that gives me access to thousands of books and movies. It's a library card. So here in the UK, we've got our library card. We can go and get any book we like from the library for free. That's my mum's idea of the internet, is going to the library. But on the other hand, we've also got consumers who are going off to kindergarten, to nursery for the first day, and they're saying, how do you think my first day at kindergarten went? They don't even have Wi-Fi. Now, it's not a generational thing. Don't think that it's about how old you are. It's about your mindset. Clearly, the younger people are more embracing because they don't know any different. That's just the world that they got brought up into. But there is, between these two extremes, an extraordinary digital divide. And that's what makes marketing today so hard. Because you can't abandon the old ways of doing things, but you've got to embrace the new. You've got to be able to do two. And it's kind of a hybrid model that we've got at the moment. And that's where you're going to get successful. So that's kind of our society. What of the marketing within a social context? What of that? Well, when I started out, 20 years ago, this was kind of how it looked. There was a scarcity of spectrum. I had 2 TV channels to choose from. I had 3 or 4 newspapers, maybe a few commercial radio stations. I didn't actually have enough channels to put my message into. Today, the scarcity is of attention. I cannot get the attention from people because there's so much stuff going on, so much choice. You've got screens everywhere you look. You've got information. Everything's free. It's amazing. So we've moved, as Seth Godin calls it, from a scarcity of spectrum to a scarcity of attention. And actually, when you look back across my short career, it's gone on an incredible journey from the 1990s. You just had TV, radio, a bit of print and display. To 2012, we've got more stuff than I can fit on the slide now. It's extraordinary. And this is what makes it so hard, because how do you choose what to use? How do you decide if Foursquare, our previous speaker, is right for your business versus, I don't know, an app that's built into a printer? I bought a new printer recently, and it prints out a copy of the headlines from the FT every day for me if I choose to, or a Sudoku or a crossword puzzle, or colouring in pages for my kids. I don't even need a computer. The printer does it all for me. It connects to the web and brings it down. How do you decide? So let's look at social. Let's look at why people use social media, and particularly Facebook, because that is the dominant platform. And the reasons that people give for liking Facebook, for using Facebook, are that it allows them to reconnect with friends, maintain contacts, fill downtime, read messages. It is a guilty pleasure for a lot of us, let's be honest. A little bit of Facebook time when the boss isn't looking, no harm in that. So these are the reasons that people give for using Facebook. But then when we look at why, with the thumbs down, why do people unlike brands? Now, most people don't realize if you like a brand, you can unlike it again, but some people do. And the reasons that they give for unliking brands: they post it too frequently. My wall's getting crowded. It's repetitive. It's boring. It's not relevant. Look at the distance between the reasons people want to use Facebook and the reasons that they choose to unlike brands. And what are you doing to those consumers when you interact with them on Facebook? Are you doing the things that are right? Because I think today, marketing feels a bit like this. It's kind of a tug of war, isn't it? It's I'm the business. Come on over here. And then you've got the poor consumer saying, whoa, I've got 27 different things I can look at. I'm not interested. It's not a tug of war, folks. I like to think of it. It's more like playing seesaw. The Americans call this a teeter-totter. Who knew? So it's like playing seesaw. And if you ever played seesaw, if you haven't played seesaw in the last few years, go play seesaw. It's great fun. You just find, do need somebody else, doesn't have to be a child, anybody. And it works because you give, you get, you give, you get, right? You have to both play the game. And that's actually what business is about. Everybody knows it's a value exchange. Everybody knows it's a transaction. Yeah, I'm going to give you some money and you're going to give me something that I want in return. Or I'm going to spend some time with you and you're going to get some information from me. It's an exchange, and that's how it should feel. And if look at your marketing. If it feels like you're just sitting on that seesaw and you're expecting the consumer to do all the work, you're getting it wrong. You've got to play seesaw. And this is what digital has done to marketing. Back in when I started out, it was about broadcasting generic adverts. Buy our stuff, you said to everybody, and you hoped that someone would listen. As we evolved with digital, now we get to a point where today it's we've got narrowcast marketing through digital channels to diverse segmented populations. Not everyone's doing it brilliantly, but we're kind of getting better at it. It's getting more targeted. But as we go to the future, and I don't know if this is 2013 or 2015, you decide for your business, but this is where you need to get to. You need to be delivering uniquely tailored content to individual consumers. Everybody expects to be treated as an individual. Everybody expects to have a conversation. And it's in simplest terms, we've gone from shouting to conversing. We're no longer shouting at people, folks. We need to be having a conversation, and that has to happen on an individual basis. So that's the journey. And if you don't, then this is all you got. Advertising. That's my definition. Advertising in the future becomes a cost center. It becomes the cost of being outside of that conversation. Because if you don't get this social stuff right, that's all you've got left. You better go and buy lots of adverts and hope that somebody listens to you shouting. It is not sustainable. It's not scalable. You have to change. So what is social psychology? This is the bit I get excited about because there's so much incredible stuff that we're learning about the brain and about the way that people use these channels. Well, let's talk about the brain. Have we got any neuroscientists in the room? Have a quick check. Good. No hands went up. Because I'm no neuroscientist. I'm not going to pretend to know everything about it. We've got one. Excellent. Do you want to do the rest? Okay. So we've all got a brain, thankfully. They all look pretty much alike. It's like about the size of two fists. If you want to sort of imagine what your brain looks like, it's better to do that than try and open your skull up. It's got two hemispheres, a right and a left. We all know that. It weighs about 3 pounds. That's 1.4 kilograms for the kids in the room. Made up of extraordinary mechanisms. We're just beginning to understand it. 86 billion or 100 billion, it's difficult to count because they keep moving around, neurons, these brain cells. Each of them connects to at least 10,000 other brain cells and via synapses. And the wiring between each brain cell is completely unique to you based on your life experiences and what you've done. And we're just beginning to understand how this works. And for the sake of today, let's make it simple. All right? There are 3 pieces of the brain that I want us to think about. It's not just one lump. This red section is the new brain, I'm going to call it. This is the brain that evolved most recently in humanity's evolution. It's concerned with more rational, complex things like language processing, speech, reading, thinking things, and particularly the prefrontal cortex at the front there. That's all your reasoning and logical thought is happening there. That's quite a recent thing to have evolved in humans. Then there's the midbrain. It's the green bit. And this is kind of regulating your emotions primarily. And there's particularly 2 very interesting bits called the amygdala, it's sort of almond-sized 2 bits that regulate how you feel about things and your emotions. And things like impulse buying fires a lot of stuff inside the midbrain. But the final part of the brain is that little yellow bit at the bottom, which this is not a scientifically accurate representation. The old brain is concerned with your survival. This is the part of the brain that grows first in the fetus. This is the part of the brain that evolved first in human beings. And it regulates all of the stuff like staying alive, breathing, moving, digestion, fight or flight, all of this stuff. And it is doing the vast majority of the work right now for you. But crucially for us, we need to understand the old brain is regulating all of the decisions. Ultimately, it's very hard to do something if your old brain is saying no. Don't do that because you risk your survival. And you'd be surprised how frequently you can have those triggers which can stop something that's incredibly rational and well thought through. Now, right now, typically, we understand now that there's something like 11 million data points, bits of data being processed every second by our brains. Of those, just 40, tiny little 40, are happening consciously. And that's you listening to me, processing the words, doing the rational, logical stuff. The other 10,999,960, all unconsciously. It's doing things like keeping you upright. It's digesting your breakfast. It's regulating your breathing. It's fixing things in your body. It's making sure you stay alive. I do a quick exercise. Let's try this. If you just go with me while we go through your pockets. Close your eyes. Close your eyes, people. And I just want you to think about something. Close your eyes. It's important you close them because otherwise it really doesn't work. And what I want you to do is don't think about an elephant. It's really important you don't think about an elephant. Certainly not a pink elephant and not an elephant that's got sort of big flappy ears and is flying. A flying elephant. Don't think about a flying elephant. What I want you to think about is a dog. Maybe a dog that you've had in your life at some point. Maybe it's at home. Maybe it was in your childhood, a dog. But don't think about an elephant. You must not think about an elephant, okay? All right, open your eyes. How'd you do? Do you follow my instructions? It's impossible. You can't. You're receiving stimulus. Your brain is instantly making the connections. You see that elephant as soon as I say it. You cannot override the stimulus that comes in from the outside. So we need to do whole brain marketing, folks. This is the only way that we're going to get better. And I've got 4 little tips here that will help you. There are many more of these. We haven't got time to go into all of them. Some of them you'll have heard of. Some of them you won't. Listen to these and see if it applies to your world, your business. See if this helps. Scarcity. We've heard of the scarcity principle, some of us. When something seems unavailable, we want it even more. All right? When something's unavailable, we want it even more. Let's look at this great study from 1975. Psychologists did a study where they put cookies into a jar. They had 2 jars, glass jars. They put 10 cookies in one jar. They put 2 cookies in the other jar. They put people in. Taste the cookies. Tell us which one tastes best. Which one tastes best? The one in the nearly empty jar. It's the same cookies. They're exactly the same. But because there's not many of them left, our brain tells us they must be better. Now, if you've got cookies or you run a coffee shop or anything, never fill the shelves fully up because people won't buy it because they think nobody else has. We look for that social proof, which I'll come on to. Where do we see this online? You know it. You've seen it. We've all fallen for it. I want to book a flight on British Airways. What do I got? Hang on a minute. A flight to New York. Only 2 seats left at this price. Book now to avoid disappointment. It's a jumbo jet. There's probably 300 empty seats in there. There's only 200. There's only 2 left now, though. What's this doing to me? It's saying it's unavailable. I want it. I want it. I want it. I'm reaching for my credit card, and I don't even know why. Because my survival brain is kicking in saying, well, you've got to move. You know, you want those 2 seats. The next seat is only a penny more expensive, but, you know, it works. We see this stuff, and Voyage Privé, as a famous site that, you know, I think it's done quite well. I'm not really sure. But when it launched, it said it's by invitation only. The only way you could become a member of Voyage Privé is if you got an invite from somebody. This is scarcity. People want it. Oh, how do I get into that? Oh, I've got to get an invitation. It must be really good. Right? Now, you can abuse these things because if you do it for too long, you actually find that it just becomes a commodity. And when Voyage Privé started doing TV advertising, it destroyed the scarcity thing. So now they're known as the world's leading members-only travel club. Very subtle change, but they're no longer playing on scarcity. But of course this stuff works because all of these sites, some of which you may have heard of, launched using invitation-only principles because it's a great way of getting people to want something that they could readily have. It's the internet. It's infinite, right? There's no reason that you can't have a Spotify account at all. But if it's out of reach, you want it more, even more. And of course, Amazon are the master of this. Now, I don't know if you'll be able to see this at the back of the room. Lightning deals on Amazon. This is a screenshot I took yesterday. They do this on a Monday to a Wednesday. Down the bottom of the screen, can you see this? These times are counting down. And these are offers. So you've got some nice healthy discounts, limited time, limited stock. Look at what they say. 96% claimed. Claimed, not bought. It's almost like you've got a right, you've got a birthright to this thing. You've got to get this Jamie Oliver extra virgin olive oil for 20 quid. It's outrageous. But it's half price. And look at the numbers. 98% claimed. Whoa, the numbers are the time's ticking down. The amount claimed is gone. When it's all gone, it goes on a wait list. It's brilliant. It's genius because you don't know they're doing this to you, and you can use this in your businesses. You can use this to get people to want something more. So that's scarcity. What about social proof? I mentioned this earlier on. The need to fit in is hardwired into our brains. Right now, it would feel really uncomfortable if one of you were to stand up, start doing a little dance, and then sit down again. You just don't do it, do you? You know, it's when you go to church, if you don't go to church regularly, you kind of sit there and do everything that everybody else does, and you just try and fit in. Because when we were cavemen, when we were less sophisticated than we are today, we needed to fit in, because if we didn't, then we'd get, I don't know, burned at the stake or thrown out or not given any food. So we still have this and we can't refuse it. This is a travel study that's very interesting. Done in 2007, and the researchers looked at travel destinations online, and they said, they looked at when a travel destination has an online recommendation from someone, it was chosen on average 10% more often than those without a recommendation. When a photo of the reviewer, the person who gave that recommendation, was included, that destination was chosen 20% more frequently. So you can see what happens there is when you can see the person, even if it's somebody you're never going to meet, you don't know, that you know nothing about them other than they are a human being, you want to go to that place more, 20% more often. It's extraordinary because we look for that in everything we do. And that's what Amazon's doing to it. Oh, sorry, this is eBay actually. Here's an eBay offer, coffee machine, good price, looks good, doesn't it? Hang on a minute, what's this? Over 680 sold. Well, I care, only want one coffee machine. Oh, it's social proof. If they've sold 680, this must be a good coffee machine. It's telling me that this is a good thing to do. You are not going to be the only person. Of course, we see this on Thomson's website. This, if you go to look around, you see stuff like 29 people have shortlisted this hotel. You click on it, it doesn't even go anywhere. It doesn't tell you what it means. It's just saying 29 people have shortlisted it. It might mean they put it in there and decided it was the worst place in the world, or it might mean they all went on holiday. It's just a way of giving you reassurance that there are other people, human beings like you, who buy this stuff. Of course, Amazon, again, brilliant at it with their recommendations engine. People who bought this thing also bought this. Oh, people like me who buy the stuff that I buy also buy these. Oh, I'll buy some of those as well. We don't even know it's happening to us. So social proof, we look for it in everything. Commitment is my third principle for today. When you make a small commitment to something, it often leads on to bigger things, to a bigger commitment. The famous study on this one was done in 1966, way back in the USA. Researchers went to households in a neighbourhood and said, we're trying to encourage people to drive more safely in the neighbourhood. You can't really have any aversion to that. Would you agree to us putting up this sign at the end of your front garden? And it was a big, ugly sign like that, and it just said, drive carefully. Incredibly, 17% of people agreed. These people were mad. They agreed to have this big ugly sign erected. Then they went to elsewhere in the neighbourhood, and they knocked on the door and said, hey, trying to encourage safe driving, would you agree to put this 3-inch safe driver sticker in the back of your car? Yeah, okay, so some people agreed to that. They then went back to those same households 2 weeks later. They said, we're still doing this drive safely thing. Would you agree to have a big ugly sign in your front yard? 76% of people agreed. Think about it, folks. That is a quadrupled success rate, because what they did is they activated a persona in people that made them say, yeah, I am the sort of person that cares about safe driving. I am that sort of person. They made a small commitment, which in turn could lead to a big commitment. And there's another, I'm going to quickly share this example, an American Girl Scout who sold $80,000 worth of cookies in 1 year. $80,000 worth of cookies. Big thing in the States. And she'd knock at the door and she'd say, I'm trying to raise funds for the Girl Scouts. Could you give me a $30,000 donation? Of course. What do you say? I'm sorry. I'd love to help you. I can't afford $30,000. I really can't help. So, oh, that's a real shame. But look, could you just maybe spare $1 to buy some cookies? How can you say no? You've activated the person. You're the sort of person that would help if you could. But you've only got $1. $80,000 worth of cookies she sold. And this happens online, and this is where marketers are getting it so wrong, and it drives me crazy. When someone rates a photo, likes you on Facebook, signs your petition, that is not the end of the journey for marketers. That is the beginning. That is the small commitment. You've liked us on Facebook. Most marketers I know go, hey, you've got another like, I'm off to the pub. No. That's when you work on them. That's when you contact them. That's when you say, hey, you're the sort of person that likes our brand. Have you thought about this? What about this? How else can we help you? That's where the money gets made, folks. So, commitment. Small commitments, big spending. And the final one, reciprocity. We are wired to return favours and exchange gifts. Someone gives you something, you have to return it. That's why if someone takes you out for lunch and they pay for lunch, even if you don't like that person, it kind of eats away at you inside. You're like, oh, I really ought to take them out to lunch. They took me out for lunch. I've got to return the favour. It's the same thing. It's why we keep sending Christmas cards to people we don't even know anymore, because they'd send us a card. We say, oh, we got to do this. We're wired to do this, because think about it. If you're in that cave and there's the last bit of mammoth meat that you're trying to get hold of, if you give it a bit to somebody else, they're going to look out for you next time. I've got your back. So how does this work in the real world? Well, supermarkets love it. Supermarkets love these because the manufacturers always pay for them. Come around the supermarket, here, taste this free bit of jam. Without realizing it, your brain is being manipulated and you are feeling indebted to that experience. You might not buy that jam, but you sure as hell are going to put more in your shopping trolley. And it's proven time and time and time again that this is what happens. There's a famous study where people, actually, no, I won't go into it. I haven't got enough time. Right, we'll talk about it another time. So how does this work? How does this work online, this whole reciprocity thing? Well, Visit Norway gets it. Anyone in from Visit Norway? No, nobody in from Visit. They don't need to come because they work this stuff out. You go on the Visit Norway site, you've got games, you've got screensavers, you've got videos, all this free stuff that you can get. They're not trying to sell you anything, they're just trying to give you some stuff. Visit England doesn't do this, Visit London doesn't do this, Visit Paris doesn't do this. It drives me crazy. Give something away, people will give you something in return. And here's the deal. In study after study, if you, by nature as marketeers, we think, I need to collect data about my customers, right? So if I'm going to give away a screensaver, I'm going to make them fill in a form and tell me who they are, and then they're going to get the screensaver. That's what we all do. If you do that, let's say you'll get one lot of data. You'll get 1,000 names, let's say. If you flip it around the other way, and you give them something that's good, and immediately afterwards you say, hey, we'd love to give you more stuff like that. Would you give us your name and details? You will get twice as much data. You'll get 2,000 names. It's counterintuitive because our job is to collect data. If you give something away, you will get something back. Flip it, and you get twice as much data. So those are my 4 principles. Scarcity, social proof, commitment and reciprocity. There are many more. We've only got time for those today. Let's try and apply this. Now I picked, and I'm sorry if the owners of this website are in the room. I've tried to anonymize it as best I could. I picked it because they came bottom of a recent survey for UK travel companies. So they deserve to be picked on, I thought. Well, they need the help, maybe. So this is a typical website. Looks nice, it's very professional, What can we do to improve it and apply these principles? Well, let's have a look here. So we've got a picture, we've got join us, what the price includes and so on. You know what I think would be helpful? Up here on the price. Doesn't tell me much. I'm not reaching for my credit card. Maybe if I could save 23%. Maybe if that offer was going to expire. Maybe if there was a clock ticking away. Maybe if there are only 2 left, I might be more responsive to the offer. I'm not saying make it up. It's got to be factual. But if that was there and it was real and true, that would be absolutely right. What about down here? Instead of all this stuff about what the price includes, yeah, we're going to find that out later on. What about Jenny, who's a teacher and a mum? Oh, she's a human being. I know people called Jenny. That's just like me. What does she say? Oh, there's a real picture of her with her son and a great quote that's absolutely applicable to me. What else? Oh, single rooms are available for a supplement. Oh, yeah. Number of customer reviews. How many people have reviewed this? What's the overall ratings? Show you have nothing to hide. Be authentic. What about down the bottom? All this resort information. Yeah, it's important. But you know what would be better for you, I think? Maybe some social stuff. Maybe tell us about your holiday. Download our free resort guide. Like us for more offers on Facebook. Request your free luggage tags. Small commitments, big spending. Vote for your favourite holiday resort and win. Some social stuff. You're not trying to get the sale there and then because you know if you do it right, it's going to follow. What else? That stuff over there, what our customers say. Oh yeah, I'll go back. Look, this is what our customers say. This is a really bad way to do it. Mr. S by email. Mr. S by email. Let's say it's Mr. Smith. How could that customer object to having their surname out there? There's no way they could be identified. Mr. S. No, let's get rid of that. We've got a nice quote in the middle. Let's say what our customers saw. Real photos. This is why the review sites that you guys all hate are so loved, because they've got real people with real photos. Put the real customer photos on there. Oh, and you know what? There's one more thing I'd like to do. The booking hotline is closed on a Saturday. Oh no, the booking hotline is open, but the customer service is closed. Come on, guys, get with the 21st century. You can't take my money and then refuse to serve me on a Saturday. You've got to be open. So basic stuff. I don't know. It's not a perfect example, but it shows that with a little bit of imagination, all of these principles can be applied and can bring you much better results. So I've talked about our society, social marketing, and a little bit of social psychology. And the reason this matters again is that moment of truth is digital. If you haven't got it right, everything else is redundant. I've really enjoyed talking to you. I hope it's been useful. Thank you very much.
I don't think anybody was disappointed by that, were they? That was fascinating, and thank you so much again, Alistair. Well, as you know, running slightly behind, so as usual thing, 3 quick questions from the floor, please, for Alistair. We're not going to do a Q&A. Or are you just so blown away by that you need to absorb? Okay, so chap here. So we just wait for the microphone to come around. We're with you in a sec. Chap in the middle of the corridor, the row.
Hi, I'm Cormac from Gapy.com. Quite interested in the social psychology part that you were going through there. It seems to me that most of it was based on the emotional side, I guess the limbic brain. Would you say that's the inroad, or how does that apply to your wider strategy?
Yeah, it is. It's that emotional part of the brain that's making those decisions. So yes, we are talking to that, and advertising and marketing has always sought to do that. But as we start to understand through fMRI scans and things like this what is actually happening within the brain, we've got this enormous opportunity to tap into those things more intelligently. And I feel slightly uncomfortable talking about some of this stuff sometimes, because I know in any audience some people will go away and do bad stuff with this. Because you could do bad stuff. You could sell a lot of stuff to people who don't know better. But yes, it's about that. It's about the emotional side, but fusing it with the rational. So there's no disconnect between what people see. Too much marketing is just features, benefits, rational, logical stuff. That's not where the decisions get made. Thank you.
Thank you. And just 2 rows back.
Hi, I'm Anna Fisher from Eckington Manor. My biggest challenge is content creation, and the channels that I'm then putting my content out to. My biggest question there is, should I be altering what I'm putting out, because most people are on Facebook and Twitter and what have you, and there's just an opportunity for slightly different messages going to different people, or is it okay to put the same thing out across all the channels?
Okay, interesting question. Content side of things, you need to be, the principle is with anything digital, because there are no experts, it doesn't matter what some guru will tell you, there are no experts, we're all working it out as we go. You have to be testing and learning. You've got to be doing things deliberately, not just, oh, I've got this, so I'll put that out. You need to say, well, what if we did this content and we put it out on a Friday? What if we did it on a Saturday? And learning and exploring what happens. You, in my opinion, I know it's efficient to put the same content out to Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever. If you think of it as Venn diagrams, each of those groups are Venn diagrams sort of overlapping. The people in the middle who follow you everywhere, they're your most important people. And what you're doing to them, you're spamming them. You're sending them the same content. So I would actually differentiate the content. It might be subtly, it might be the time of day that you send it out. There are lots of apps and tools that you can use, but I always recommend that you try to shake it up. And people will look for different things in different environments. Yeah.
Anybody else? One more? One more
quick question.
Chap there on the aisle.
Oh, sorry.
Just behind you.
How would you best harness social proof for a startup business in this industry?
Social proof for a startup business. There's no silver bullet, simple answer that applies to everybody. It does depend on what you're trying to achieve and what type of offer you've got and the social proof you need. The simplest way for many organisations is to have, and I don't want to just say go and do some Facebook stuff, but it is the simplest platform to deploy. It's got the biggest audience, and you can deploy Facebook Connect onto your website using the Open API. That's pretty straightforward stuff. And that could just bring some faces into your site that makes it look like real people are engaging with that content. But yes, it's hard when you're starting out because you don't have a lot of proof. I would say there are old-fashioned traditional ways of getting proof, and that's asking your customers for a reference, asking your customers to give you a quote, and then putting those on the site and encouraging people to then tell their other friends about what they're doing. That's still social proof, but it's using your customer power to push it out to a wider audience. Helpful?
Okay. I personally could go on for another hour discussing this stuff, but we can't today. But I would just like to encourage you to give another warm hand to Alistair for his time.